Tonight, dead heat.
Are you guys ready to win or what?
Election day and the Virginia governor's race is all tied up as voters head to the polls to cast ballots in a down-to-the-wire contest with the eyes of the nation watching.
We have a big lead in the early vote.
This as President Biden pitches a climate agenda abroad as his economic agenda stalls at home.
This is a recipe for economic crisis.
And Decision Day. The CDC on the Pfizer vaccine for young children. Plus, what do President Abraham Lincoln and the abolitionist Frederick Douglass have in common?
They wanted to be Americans. They want to make America better.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Could this year's off-year elections provide a window into what's in store? Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Well, as we come on the air tonight, voting winds down to a close on the East Coast, and soon we'll be watching for election results from mayor's races in Boston to New York to New Jersey's contest for governor and other races and ballot measures across the country. But all eyes are on Virginia, where Republican candidate Glenn Youngkin tries to mount an upset against Democrat Terry McAuliffe for the governor's mansion in Richmond. Kicking off our coverage tonight, CBN senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener joining us from the Youngkin campaign in Chantilly, Virginia. Tara, Youngkin's had the momentum heading into Election Day, and the outcome of this race is widely seen as a referendum on Joe Biden's presidency.
Yeah, that is correct. There's a lot riding on the outcome of tonight. When you believe that 1.1 million voters voted early, of course, this is the final day. This race seen as a proxy for the mood of the country and a blueprint for elections coming up next year. Now, at the 11th hour, the polls still running neck and neck between Youngkin and McAuliffe, both trying to turn out the vote until the very last minute. Youngkin, a political newcomer and businessman, cast himself as a political outsider with a focus on the economy and education, vowing to stand up for parents who are worried about their kids and what they're learning in school. He is pledging to ban critical race theory as well. He says a positive campaign of conservative ideals will win the day because Virginians want change. McAuliffe, who won his first term as governor in 2013, has largely focused on COVID, vaccine mandates, and tying Youngkin to Donald Trump. Analysts note McAuliffe's slipping poll numbers. At the same time, Joe Biden's approval rating is plummeting. Both candidates are pushing their messages down to the wire.
I will and was a brick wall to protect your reproductive rights. We will declare that Virginia schools never will be closed again to 5 days a week in-person education.
Now, polls also show Youngkin with a big advantage among independents. They are a key constituency in this race. He also is endorsed by Donald Trump, but unlike McAuliffe, went solo in the field, and Donald Trump actually spoke up for him just a day ago. But John, this in any case is a big night and a predictor possibly of what the 22 midterms are going to look like.
And we certainly will all be watching. Thank you so much, Tara. President Biden is heading back to Washington from the climate summit in Scotland after pledging to work with world leaders to fight global warming, announcing today an effort to drastically cut methane emissions. Back home, he'll have his work cut out for him, trying to get fellow Democrats to support his domestic agenda spending priorities, which does include major climate initiatives. For where things stand with Congress, we're joined by Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail.
That's right, John. On day 3 of the climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland, President Biden laid out major plans to have Congress deploy $9 billion through 2030 to protect forests. And he announced new rules that will allow the EPA to crack down on producers of methane gas. He also used the world stage to urge Democrats back home to deliver on his Build Back Better plan.
This isn't just something we have to do to protect the environment and our future. It's an enormous opportunity for all of us, all of our nations, to create jobs and make meeting climate goals a core part of our global economic recovery. Build Back Better role is going to show that we can grow our economies, fight climate change, and leave a better, cleaner, more livable planet for all of our children.
While Biden hopes the U.S. will lead by example in the fight against climate change, in Washington, Democrats still haven't voted on the president's social spending package or passed the infrastructure bill in the House. But Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, chairwoman of the House Progressive Caucus, signaled today both bills, which progressives have linked together, might finally be voted on in the House this week.
What we said for months is we want to vote both bills through at the same time in the House. And that's what we're going to do. We got last Thursday we didn't have text. There was not going to be a vote on Build Back Better. It was just going to be a vote on the infrastructure bill. This week I believe, will have two votes on the Build Back Better Act and the infrastructure bill.
Progressive Democrats say now that the text of the Build Back Better bill is almost finished, they're counting on President Biden's negotiating skills to get centrist Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema on board. John?
All right, Abigail Robertson back in the studio tonight. Nice to see you here in the studio. Here now for more is CBN News chief political analyst David Brody. David, great to see you. The president is pitching a climate agenda without a done deal on his $1.7 trillion in spending here in Washington. David, how does that look on the world stage, and could this potentially backfire?
Potentially, and it doesn't look great on the world stage. But remember, he's not Donald Trump. And I think the Biden administration believes that's just a victory in and of itself when he goes overseas, because obviously many of the world leaders were frustrated with the former president based on some of his, let's call them what they were, hardball tactics. And so, I think there's some a welcoming spirit for Joe Biden regardless. But once again, ultimately, does it matter that he has a deal in place or not? I think these world leaders understand what he's trying to do, and I think they're more sympathetic to him because of that.
Definitely a tone or a change in tone between President Biden and President Trump. David, on the neck-and-neck race for the governor's mansion in Virginia, in the final analysis, to use your phrase there, how much of a role do you think President Biden's plummeting poll numbers will play in the tight race?
Yeah, I don't know if the right word is role that they'll play in the race, but it factors in as it relates to a little bit of that karma we talked about the other day. This idea that Democrats are underwater right now, right? This idea that Biden's poll numbers are slipping, McAuliffe is not finishing well, Youngkin is finishing better in terms of many of the polls that we've seen recently. And so you put it all together, and I think the big concern for Democrats is the independents that Biden has lost. And I think if you go inside those poll numbers, that's where the real damage could be done tonight in Virginia, specifically with those independent voters who are concerned, obviously, about issues like immigration, but specifically in Virginia, we're talking about what we've talked about for a very long time: critical race theory, the transgender bathroom issue, some of those suburban, exurb issues. And I think that Biden is losing steam on that. Because of that, McAuliffe is losing some steam as well, because let's be honest, they're all tied together at this point.
David, you're channeling where we want to go with this next question. Per early polling information, Youngkin's done incredibly well with independent voters, as Tara just mentioned in her package, in her reporting. They have the big advantage with, and it's a big key constituency, if I can say, rather. Why is that, and then how critical do you believe that constituency will be in tonight's win?
We get so much, we got kind of wrapped into, Republicans, Democrats, independents, leftists, the far right and all of that, all these labels. But the truth of the matter is independents in this country, and just like Republicans and Democrats, but a lot of independents, they're just parents who are just kind of like common sense parents who might not side with the Republican or the Democrat. They just kind of want to be left alone, if you will, and they're not really into ideology on one party or the other, and they just want to go about their business. And the problem is, what's happened here, John, in a nutshell, is that Democrats have overplayed their hand. And once again, independents are smart enough to realize that. And so, in a way, Youngkin doesn't have to do anything spectacular in this race, right? He just has to be stationary. The Democrats have gone so far to the left, and independents see that if Youngkin can just kind of come across as a common sense center-right guy, that's enough for independents. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing. We'll see if the numbers play out tonight or if there's a last-second wrinkle. I was going to call it a kerfuffle, but I don't think that's the right word in this instance, John.
David, you are our wordsmith, resident wordsmith. CBN News chief political analyst David Brody, thank you so much for your insights, David.
You bet. You bet.
And you can watch our special election coverage tonight across all of our CBN News digital platforms. Make sure you download either our CBN News app or the CBN Family app. Coming up, kids and the COVID vaccine. The CDC on the cusp of an official decision in the fight against COVID-19.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Well, welcome back. Now to the fight against the pandemic. The stage is set for young kids to get Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. A CDC advisory committee meeting today to review the data. CBN's Caitlin Burke listened to the expert deliberation, which precedes the final recommendation for kids. Caitlin, ages 5 to 11, that right?
Yes, and John, the job of this committee is to advise the CDC on whether the benefits of the vaccine for children outweigh the risks.
With kids, there's always thoughtfulness and to make sure that you're doing the best thing. But I do hope that people trust the science and that we can, encourage them to vaccinate their children. And so that as a community, we can move forward.
Overall, Pfizer's vaccine was 90.7% effective in children ages 5 to 11. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky spoke to the committee ahead of their meeting and stressed that the risk of COVID to children is too high to ignore.
As you are all aware, in this most recent Delta wave, we saw pediatric admissions peak higher than they had in any previous wave of the pandemic.
Anticipating a green light from the CDC, the Biden administration says millions of doses are already being shipped for this younger age group and estimates that kids could start receiving their vaccines by midweek. Now, parents can go to vaccines.gov to see where their children can receive the vaccine once it is available. John?
Some really helpful information there, Caitlin. Thank you so much. CBN's Caitlin Burke. For more now, we turn to CBN News medical reporter Lori Johnson. Lori, always great to see you. Can you give us a little bit of the breakdown? How many parents with kids between the ages of 5 and 11 are expected to get their kids vaccinated? And Lori, how much does this really actually move the dial?
Well, John, actually a new Kaiser Family Foundation poll just released 5 days ago shows that 30% of parents who were polled said they definitely will not be getting their 5 to 11-year-old vaccinated. 27% say they definitely will be getting their child vaccinated as soon as possible. And then the remaining 43% say they're just going to wait and see how things go before making a decision. So it's really almost, 30% say no, 27% say yes, 43% say maybe.
Wait and see. Lori, can you discuss some of the reasons why that 30% of parents who say no, what they cite in their objections for getting their kids vaccinated?
Well, there are a number of reasons, but the number one reason was they're afraid of unknown long-term side effects. And when asked to drill down on what side effects they're worried about, 2/3, John, said they're worried that later on down the road, their children might have fertility problems, trouble conceiving children when they are adults. Even though there's absolutely no evidence presented by the drug company Pfizer, the FDA, and the CDC that is a risk.
Lori, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, and I apologize for that, but mRNA technology has been around for a while. Is there anything different about these mRNA vaccines that perhaps would allow for those fertility concerns?
As I said before, there is absolutely no indication whatsoever that those are risks for this vaccine. Nevertheless, a lot of parents say that is what they're worried about, and it could be construed that they might be getting misinformation online, Facebook, or wherever else. We know that we saw a lot of misinformation being disseminated on social media regarding the adult vaccines.
Lori, for those who opt out for their children to get those vaccines, are there any special steps that they need to take?
At this point, John, no. If you don't want to get your child vaccinated, if you have a child between ages 5 and 11 and you don't want to get them vaccinated, really all you have to do is nothing. There are no school vaccine mandates for the COVID-19 vaccine. School vaccine mandates are decided on the state level, and right now California is the only state that said they will mandate a COVID-19 vaccine for the schools, but only when these vaccines for children have gotten the final FDA approval, and right now they're only getting the EUA, the emergency use authorization. But John, even if and when these vaccine mandates do go into effect in California and perhaps in other states, we still don't know what kind of opt-outs there might be. Of course, a lot of parents will be looking to see if there's a philosophical opt-out, a personal belief opt-out, which basically means if you don't want to get your child the vaccine, you don't have to. And of course, there are usually religious and medical opt-outs as well.
For just a few seconds left here, any special precautions that people should take as we head into the holidays?
Well, it's pretty interesting. You have to know that some parents who are definitely want to get their children vaccinated right away are thinking about the holidays, because if a child is vaccinated next week, for example, they will be fully immunized by the holidays. This is a 2-dose regimen. So there's one shot, a 3-week waiting period, another shot, and then another 2 weeks of incubation before their immune system has fully responded to it.
All right, Lori, we are unfortunately out of time, but we always appreciate your insights. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson.
Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, the president and the freedom fighter see what Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass shared in common.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, In this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Welcome back. It is an unlikely but uniquely American story, a president and a former slave and freedom fighter who helped shape Civil War-era America. My Faith Nation co-host Jenna Browder recently talked with the author of a new book highlighting the complicated relationship between Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Take a look.
From George Washington and Thomas Jefferson to Sam Houston, Brian Kilmeade has written about them all. And moving right on down the line in American history, his newest book intertwines the stories of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass.
I wanted to move gradually up until I hit the future.
But instead of focusing on just one man this time,
I thought, what about how they interacted together and how they made the country better and the incredible obstacles they had to overcome to do what they did.
And that resulted in the president and the freedom fighter, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, and their battle to save America's soul. Brian tells the little-known story of how these two American heroes moved from strong disagreement to friendship, and in the process changed the course of history. Both men had to overcome huge adversity, especially Douglass, who was born a slave.
Born a slave, literally sold, and then after one failed escape, finally gets out, was able to live his life, and remarkably, within 7 years, is writing a biography, and it becomes one of the most respected intellects and speakers in the world.
And Lincoln, born into abject poverty, whose parents were illiterate.
And then you have Lincoln, who is basically a self-taught guy. They both had a couple of similarities. They had a lot of similarities. They had a thirst for education. They were going to find out some way, somehow. They were going to barter, do work for a book. They would just have a chance to read and learn about a story. They were buried in the Bible and great thinkers their entire life.
Despite their similarities, there were also deep differences. Most notably, how to approach the big issue of the day, slavery.
You write about how Lincoln wanted to abolish it, but thought that doing it too quickly would really hurt the country.
What happens is, there's no doubt about it, Lincoln evolved. He was not really exposed that much to slavery. Only 1% of all the slaves were in the North. The rest were in the South.
After the United States won its independence, the South built an economy dependent on slavery. Southerners felt an attack on that would destroy their economy and way of life. The North wanted freedom, although not necessarily equality. They saw slavery as morally wrong.
The minute Lincoln gets elected, 7 states leave before he can get to the White House. Frederick Douglass is like, okay, Emancipation Proclamation, free the slaves, let us fight.
But President Lincoln wasn't ready to move that fast. He knew the North wasn't ready and risked losing half of his army by rushing the process.
And Frederick Douglass had a newspaper that he started, and he would write and he lambasted Lincoln. You let me down, going halfway. This is not what you promised. And then as inaugural, in an effort to get us reunified, he said, keep your slaves, we'll work it out. Just come back. And they said no. And that was, Frederick Douglass celebrated that, and Lincoln knew we're in for a war. They thought it would be 90 days, and it was 4 years, and it cost between 600 and 700,000 lives, which is just unthinkable.
Through time, though, the men came to respect one another and even form a friendship.
And then Lincoln would evolve, and it was timing. And people would be pushing him to do it. He's like, I'm not ready. He wrote it out. It wasn't ready. And he's so impatient. Then he realized, we need a big win. After a big win, I'm not only going to come out with the Emancipation Proclamation, I'm going to allow African Americans to fight for their freedom. And when he finally gets a chance to meet Douglass, I don't want to give the whole book away, but you know it historically, Douglass realizes this guy that was frustrating him for the longest time, that he saw so much promise in, was the honest, great man he always thought he was. He saw authenticity, kindness, and greatness. And that was just in the moments in which they met.
Is there a lesson in this book and this story of these two men for us today here?
Yeah, they wanted to be Americans. They want to make America better. So they studied the founding fathers. They studied where we came from. And they said, okay, my country's imperfect, so let's make it better, right? Let's not disparage it. Let's do it in a way that's, call it out, but make it better.
It's the great democratic experiment, and these two men made it better. Not only that, together their grit and determination helped the United States begin to live up to its ideals.
Brian, I don't want to get ahead of my skis, but I think a lot of our viewers, they'll pick up this book and then they'll finish it and they'll say, all right, what's next?
No idea. I have no idea.
Writing a book like this is a huge deep dive. Brian says he's going to finish this publicity tour and then maybe this spring start thinking about his next topic. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Wonderful reporting, Jenna. Thanks. Coming up, making her vote count curbside. A woman in her 90s is doing her civic duty and encouraging everyone to get out and vote.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to cbn.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Finally tonight, what better way to close on Election Day than to honor the American voter? And tonight we're highlighting one special woman we met today. She's lived through a world war and countless conflicts, a life spanning back to Calvin Coolidge, the 30th President of the United States. At 94 years young, Ms. Goldie Appleton of Frederick County, Virginia, says nothing could stop her from voting, which she did by curbside, not even her age.
Get out and vote. Research your people running first.
She looks great. Ms. Appleton said her favorite thing about being a citizen is the freedom we have to make our own choices. That's why she's encouraging others to go out and do the same. And thank you to Rich Westfall who met her. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.